Okay. I want to start off with this beautiful, miserable game that I did not fully tune into last night. I'll be full on that. I did
Eh,
not. You did?
No, ask me how many plays I watched that game
How
last
many
night.
plays you watched that game?
Live, zero. I just
Oh,
watched the fourth down play, the end of the game on Twitter. So I guess you would technically say I watched one play. I'm sorry, two, because I saw Zeke's touchdown on Twitter as well. So
well,
I didn't watch any of the game live because I had better things to do than watch two pathetic football teams play each other.
this is what why I want to talk about it is because both these teams are struggling right now, but in different forms. The Patriots are struggling because this is the worst New England team we've seen in literal decades. They're going to be a top 5 pick here. They wanted the number 1 pick, but because they get this victory, it's it's not in a great
Well,
spot right now because the Bears
the,
really have an advantage with the 2 picks they have already, and then the 1 pick, it seems the Steelers helped them locked it up.
I, I don't know if the Patriots were going to even have a shot at the number one pick because I don't know if the Panthers are going to win another football game this year, Mitch. And the Panthers aren't picking number one. To your point, the Bears have the number one pick. So the Bears are just sitting here kicking their legs up with their hands behind their head, maybe thinking about a charged lemonade from Panera. And they're just like, this is nice. This is really nice. We have two top five picks. Maybe we can keep winning with our team and just keep the Panthers pick. Who knows? And the Bears are in the best spot right now. I don't care about their win loss record. This isn't a team that, even if they made a run right now, can really make noise in the playoffs, I don't think. But I mean, Bill Belichick is the best coach in our lifetime. And he also looked like he knew exactly what he was doing in terms of tanking. And at the same time, we wouldn't know because we're Browns fans. And boy, do we know the word tank. It seems like that's all we knew how to do for a very long time. I think getting a few wins here and there, though, helps a lot in that locker room. It allows those younger players that you're drafting to keep the vision intact, right? Like if you think about this, Mitch, when we went 1-15, and we had the number one pick, and we took Miles Garrett. Don't you think Miles Garrett was probably a little bit turned off the next year we went 0-16? Like it's not an easy thing to deal with. And a lot of these guys in the Patriots, Mitch, that are still there from when Brady was there, it's not many of them anymore. They have to be going through it as well. It's not easy to go from all that success to being a bottom five team in the NFL whatsoever. Having a constant question of who's playing quarterback, which that might have been answered last night moving forward for the Patriots. We don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But damn, is Bill Belichick good at both winning and losing? I mean, that guy knows how to tank. And they come away last night with a win in Pittsburgh, which is virtually impossible to do in a night game atmosphere in prime time in Pittsburgh, unless it's like a wild card game in 2020. Then they typically never win those anyway. But it's just I have a buddy who's a Browns fan. He lives out in Pittsburgh now, and he goes with some buddies to the games. Obviously, does not root for the Steelers, but he does say the atmosphere is incredible. He didn't think the Steelers could lose at all. I'm not mad. 2 weeks ago, Mitch, I believe I was on this. I told you the Steelers won 11 games because their next four games were a cakewalk. They played Arizona, they played New England, they played Indianapolis, and they hosted the Bengals again. Well, they dropped two of the first four, Mitch. So 11 wins, I think, is pretty much out of the picture because I believe their last two games, one is against Seattle, one may be against Baltimore if they haven't played twice yet. I cannot remember, but that's neither here nor there because nobody cares about the Steelers anyway. They're dead. They're not making the playoffs. Mitch Trubisky, I feel bad because he's a Northeast Ohio guy. I thought he got a raw deal in Chicago, but the more and more he keeps playing, the more and more chances he gets, Mitch, it looks like maybe it wasn't just Matt Nagy in Chicago. Maybe it was Mitch Trubisky too. Mason Rudolph was getting chanted very quickly in that game to come in, and Kenny Pickett, who, if you're the Steelers, Mitch, and you lose again next week and you're pretty much done for the playoffs, do you even rush Kenny Pickett back after an ankle surgery
Uh,
if he's cleared to come back?
Yeah, I don't know if they're necessarily done because I think the Browns winning this week against Jacksonville will have something to do with it. Then you're able to overtake Pittsburgh for second place in the AFC North and for the better spot in the wild card standings. But I don't know if that necessarily like if you lose the next two to Indianapolis and then Cincinnati, yeah, you're out. That's where it's going to be. That's where other teams in the AFC are going to start creeping up for potential spots from the East, from the South, and the West. Um, yeah, it's gonna whether or not Kenny Pickett comes back this year is gonna depend on their success. But right now, this team just doesn't look like they can muster up more than maybe two decent offensive drives per game, and they're losing to these teams that are supposed to be tanking for higher picks. And the fact that they're losing to this one, and then to Arizona the week prior, and it looks as if it's going to be another around 500 season for Pittsburgh, maybe a wild card round appearance. I've seen it online, man. There's some serious doubt for Pittsburgh fans as to whether or not Mike Tomlin can really be the guy next year moving forward, because he's done a lot of good for this team, but the so-called Steeler way might have to be reevaluated if this is the same results that's going to be coming in and year out if things don't change. I mean, we're at a time now where over the last 5 years, what's the best Steeler finish? Wild card round twice. The Browns have gotten to the divisional round before you guys were able to.
Yeah. But did they win the division? Yeah, they won the division in 2020. Mm-hmm. That was the last.
They started off 11-0. Yep.
And this is the thing. I think Mike Tomlin is a very good football coach.
Sure.
I think now you're starting to see what happens when you're handicapped with a roster, when you don't have a elite quarterback. I know Big Ben at the tail end of his career was not necessarily elite. Is it time for them to move off from Mike Tomlin? And this is not a shot at Mike Tomlin, but at the same time, Mitch, well, Mike Tomlin's never had a 500 or under 500 record. What else has he done? He hasn't won a Super Bowl in 15, 16 years. What else has he done with this team besides just make the playoffs and lose or win around? This team has not been a legitimate Super Bowl contender. In 2020, they're 11-0, so you almost had to say it. But realistically, you saw what that team was as the season continued to go on after they lost that first game to Washington, I believe. Was that the team they lost to, I think? I think it was the Commanders at the time, Redskins or football team. I don't know. They're stuck. The Steelers are stuck right now in mediocrity. Okay, cool. You go above 500 every year. That can be 9-8 now since we play 17 games. What does that get you? You're caught in the middle of no man's land because it's not good enough for a top 5 pick, and you're not making the playoffs. Okay, you can't win a Super Bowl unless you make the playoffs. So I give Mike Tomlin for that, for the amount of times they made the playoffs. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, for the first time in a long time, Mitch, I think are caught in the middle of no man's land, because you can be a team that goes 500 or better, but not good enough to win the division, not good enough to make a playoff run. But where does that get you? It gets you nowhere. It gets you everywhere else with every other team that makes the playoffs that doesn't win their conference and make it to the Super Bowl. And they're never going to be able to get a high enough draft pick unless they completely just say, all right, it's time. We got to blow it up. We got to find our quarterback. Okay, personally, I don't think Kenny Pickett's the answer, so I hope they keep Kenny Pickett for a long, long time, because I just don't think he's going to be – I mean, look back at the preseason. Was he not the most overhyped quarterback coming out of the preseason this year? Kenny Pickett looks great. The Steelers are an AFC North contender. They're a Super Bowl. No, they're not. How I know that this is officially hit mediocrity is because Steelers fans are starting to lose it. And what do you mean by that? I mean, last night, there was an honest take of, should the Steelers trade TJ Watt because he's in his prime and all we're doing is wasting his prime? Mitch, they've lost it. They're going through it. Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome to mediocrity, because that is what you are. Okay, so now you have to figure out, are we going to go make moves to get this team back to where we expect them to be, or are you going to have to accept, for knowing the Steelers, I wanted to say 3-5 years. It could probably just be 1 or 2, where you just have to say, okay, it's not going to be our year this year. We have to build the youth up. We have to do this. We have to go get guys like this and maybe get a new coaching staff. I don't know. I'm not complaining. I'm still very upset the Browns lost to them one time this year. But I think Mike Tomlin's a good coach. But Mitch, in a league that is, what have you done for me lately? And a lot of these franchises have quick hooks. I almost think that this could be a curse, because they just keep saying Mike Tomlin's always above 500. He's always above 500. Look at this. We never have a losing record. Well, where's it gotten you? It's gotten you nowhere in 15 or 16 years since you won your last Super Bowl. 15. Oh, wait, they won the Super Bowl against the Cardinals.
Yeah, 09 and 10, they made the conference championship. 2016, they made the AFC title game against New England. But yeah.
What's the difference between him and Mike McCarthy? Nothing. They both won a Super Bowl, and they've been mediocre. They've gotten to in the playoffs. They've gotten to big games, and they can't come up with wins.
I feel like Tomlin has done more with lesser.
I agree with that, but I'm just saying, like, you look at this. We keep saying Mike McCarthy, he's not a good football coach. Look at now the Cowboys have a chance to right that ship this week if they beat the Eagles, which we'll talk about. But we can't have two guys that are actually very similar in what they've done for you lately and hold one guy way up here and the other guy way down here when they're practically doing the same thing. The Steelers haven't got anywhere recently, and they're not going to get anywhere this year. And they're at a crossroads right now for the first time in a long time. Okay. So I don't feel bad for Steelers fans or people who are like, oh, this is whatever. Okay. Welcome. Okay. We dealt with this our entire lifetime as Browns fans.